This is incredibly ridiculous.
So I saw this video a couple of weeks ago on Joshua Weissman's channel, and I immediately knew that I was going to be making this. It looked absolutely incredible, and it's one of those recipes that you know it's going to be good without having to try it. So yeah, if you want to go try this as well, I'm going to link Joshua's video in the description so you can go follow his procedure. I love sandwiches, especially tortas, and I also love beef, specifically birria. And yes, I've had the authentic birria in Mexico, which is made with goat meat, and that stuff is bomb as well. But yeah, I've already done a video on this channel making my own birria tacos, so I decided to use my own recipe again and just follow his procedures for the rest of the sandwich. But with that said, my recipe is quite similar to Joshua's. I use the same cuts of beef and a lot of the same spices and chiles, and a lot of the procedures the same, which includes rehydrating and steeping the chiles, as well as searing and braising the beef in that broth that you make homemade. I would say the biggest difference between our methods was that Joshua braises everything together and then removes the chiles and blends them with the juice that they're in, and then adds them back in, and then the spices that he doesn't want to actually include in the broth, he puts in a cheesecloth so that he can easily remove them. Whereas I blend the chiles first with the spices that I plan to keep in the broth, and then I add everything, just in the broth later, because at the end I strain everything through a mesh sieve, because for me that's a non-negotiable step, because I want my broth to be smooth and without chunks at the end. To me, that extra step is worth it to get rid of all those fibers from the vegetables and any extra chunks that are left from the spices. I've been enjoying making my own breads recently, so I had a good time making this telera. I don't think that a store-bought bread can ever beat home-baked bread. But with that said, sometimes the convenience of just going and grabbing it can beat out the time it takes to do it at home. But this recipe is obviously a doozy. It's not your standard weeknight recipe. And these YouTubers can take all day because this is their job to make stuff like this. And a lot of times it's not possible for us that have jobs and lives to tend to. But I personally on the weekends try to set aside some hours that I can spend in the kitchen cooking, because it's just a hobby that I love so much. And with this recipe, I had to clear my schedule for a whole day just so I could do this. For me, cooking is therapeutic, and it's my favorite pastime. I could spend, 6 or 8 hours in the kitchen and not get tired. It's a good way to stop me from eating too, because I'm very occupied while I'm cooking, and I don't think about how hungry I am until I'm done. So all around, it's such a great activity for me, even though I didn't start cooking until I was like 25. Which is crazy because I'd missed out on so many years that I could have been having fun. This is also not a cheap recipe, because in general beef is not a cheap meat, but especially right now with the state of the world, things are super expensive, so you'll be spending a lot of money, but you should be able to come out with a lot of servings of this. So if you're alone or if you have a family, you should still have some leftovers. And I know I've been enjoying different variations of birria all week. On top of that, it's all the different components. Vegetables are cheap, but you have to buy a whole head of lettuce, you have to buy a whole tomato, you have to buy a whole avocado. So all those things do add up. So it's important to prepare in advance and make sure that you have ways to use up the rest of those ingredients that you didn't use in the recipe. I think that's a huge way that we waste money, is just letting the rest of the ingredients go to waste. But that's enough rambling from me. Let's go ahead and taste test this thing. I can't believe that this exists, much less that I decided to create it. There's so much going on here. I aspire to one day have the kind of time to do stuff like this. This took me probably about 5 hours today, and I had a heck of a time doing it. I love doing this kind of stuff. Obligatory cross section. Wow. I didn't even realize it, but I have been waiting my entire life for this moment. Let's go. How is this even real? Like I said, I've done my own birria before, and easily one of the greatest things I've ever eaten, but even that doesn't stack up to this. Like just the layers of everything, the homemade telera and the special sauce, and especially that cheese crust. In the regular birria tacos, you put the cheese and the beef in the taco and fold it over, and you kind of grill it on a grill or a cast iron, but you don't get the same crunch that you get with this crunchy cheese, and everybody loves those crunchy bits of cheese in a bunch of dishes. And like I said, when I visited Mexico, the tortas that I tried there were of the best foods entirely of the whole trip. But this is definitely a special occasion dish. Joshua really killed it with this recipe. I've done a handful of his recipes in the past, and he always does a good job. He's very thorough and puts a lot of steps and makes his recipes very long and fancy, but they always come out great.
So if you ever do find yourself with a free day and you want to go out and buy all this beef, I definitely recommend doing this recipe. If not, just do the regular birria recipe. It could be the one I did or the one that Joshua has already on his channel, but you won't regret it. But as you know, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Is it legal for me to say that a sandwich has changed my life? My goodness.